With Jurassic World Evolution 3 coming out in 6 weeks, a lot of people have started to judge or base opinions off of what they are doing specifically with the roster of animals, or in this case dinosaurs, in Jurassic World Evolution 3. And that is taking 122 species from Jurassic World Evolution 2, the previous game, and cutting 40 of them down to 82 in Jurassic World Evolution 3. Now this has caused people to move this over to Planet Zoo in a Planet Zoo 2 kind of discussion, where we could be looking at the over 200 species roster we have in Planet Zoo 1 currently, how much of that will be chopped down, if any, in a Planet Zoo 2 potentially next year. I'm not here to debate if a Planet Zoo 2 is even possible or anything like that. I believe that it is, and I'm not here to also debate if they're even going to cut down species. This video is strictly for if they do choose to cut down species. I'm not debating that. I have no idea if they will or not, but this is just for the pure fun of the concept of if they do choose to cut down the roster a decent amount. Now, contradicting what I just said, this video isn't actually about the species that will be cut specifically. In Jurassic World Evolution 3, we can tell that they will be bringing back a lot of species from like the films, community favorites, stuff like that. However, they are also introducing new species as well, to either just bring in brand new species that'll get people interested, or they're bringing in species that are new, but are also kind of replacing those that will be cut. For example, Patagotitan is one of the new species from Jurassic World Evolution 3 that is being introduced, and it will probably cut out a couple of the other sauropods like Amargasaurus or Alamosaurus. So in this video, we'll be going over 7 animals that I believe should be included, or at least could potentially be included in a Planet Zoo 2 base roster, to either be something brand new that would feel like something that doesn't need to be in a DLC or saved for later, or it could be an animal that is new but is also replacing a couple species from the base game that we have that can kind of like cheap down or cut down the roster. And I'll be explaining which animal is cutting out which other animals. So let's get right into it. Alright, number 1, I have the serval. Now, this is kind of like a bad rap kind of thing, because this is one that is more of like a personal choice for me, but I think the serval was one that was very highly requested as of recent years, and I think that would be kind of annoying to have to wait for it even after Planet Zoo 2 doesn't include it in the base roster, so you have to wait even longer until like, I don't know, like an Africa pack or Savannah pack. I feel like it would be better, maybe slightly better, if they chose to include it in the base roster, but then get rid of something like Caracal, which could be included later on in a grasslands pack. It's really kind of subjective when talking about this stuff, because we don't know if they will cut down species, because there's the argument that Jurassic World Evolution 3 is only cutting it down because they have to make models for the babies. But we've also seen that with Planet Coaster 2, they cut down, they only took a certain amount of themes from the first game and brought them over, and people were really upset about that. So you could also make the argument that they maybe could learn from that and they will include everything in this time. I don't believe they even brought back all the rides from Planet Coaster 1, which was a bit disappointing. So we really have no idea what they're going to bring back and what they're going to leave behind in Planet Zoo 2. Honestly, all of us would love to just have everything right from the beginning, but that is obviously not going to happen, or at least I don't think it's going to happen, because then there's nothing left to sell DLCs for a sequel. But getting back to the actual serval here, I think it'd be a pretty good one to have. I think it's one that is similar to the cats we have. Like, it's not something that is completely new, but it's something that just gives a bit of more variety, especially when you're doing like a sequel to the base game. You have to have a base game roster that is pretty similar, because you can't leave out icons like lions, orangutans, gorillas, stuff like that. But you also need a bit more variety in what you build for like those little side species. So I think the serval is just a nice kind of like adjustment, or a nice kind of filler species to that could potentially replace some of the other cats we have currently, like the Palace cat, Caracal, some of those side lesser known cats. Alright, number 2, I have the American black bear. This is one that I think should definitely be included in a Planet Zoo 2, because number 1, I feel like I'm gonna like do like the fans injustice here, because everybody has been wanting the American black bear for like either a recent DLC or an upcoming DLC, or the anniversary animal for this year of 2025. I don't personally think we are gonna get an anniversary animal, and I don't think we're getting a DLC, like another DLC. So I honestly think they're just gonna leave us on the cliffhanger. We have every other bear species except for the American black bear, which is a bit unfortunate. But then what I think they're gonna do instead is they are going to, in the next game, either they're gonna use the American black bear as the central North American bear species, instead of having the Himalayan brown bear be cut off for Europe, cut off potentially the grizzly bear, just and bring it back later for like the headline of a North America pack maybe. A polar bear I think would also definitely be one that is needed to be in a base game roster. I think the ones that at the earlier stages of like the DLCs for Planet Zoo 1, the things that people think should be in the base game, like the jaguar, the kangaroos, the penguins, I think those are going to be in the base game, because then it feels kind of cruel to like have to repay for penguins and all that stuff, especially when they already headlined the other packs, like the aquatic pack, because it would make no sense if you had the penguin headlining the aquatic pack for the first game, and then you have the penguin headlining the another type of underwater pack for the second game. It doesn't make much sense. So I think they would instead put some of the DLC species in the base game, obviously, but then kind of make room for others later down the line. Maybe ones that were in the base game of Planet Zoo 1 and move those to DLC. People have been suggesting that potentially with the orangutan. Have the orangutan be like a treetops pack headliner for Planet Zoo 2. That could also work. There's so many ways you can go with this, and I could honestly talk for this forever, but we're going to move on to number 3. Number 3, the walrus. This is one that again is heavily requested, and I think this is actually one that is pretty likely to end up in a Planet Zoo 2 roster. And in general, Planet Zoo 2 is definitely going to have the walrus, but I think this is definitely one that should be involved earlier on. And number 1 is because it is very requested, and it's something that I don't necessarily think can headline a pack. I guess it's very iconic, but still, I think it should be one that is included right off the bat, especially because if they do include aquarium species at some point, you still want to have a lot of semi-aquatic animals in the base game to kind of dip your toes into that. And you already have I assume there's already going to be measurements taken or already kind of features that hint towards aquariums later down the line, like tanks or something like that in a Planet Zoo 2 base roster that could then be turned into an aquarium pack later on. And I think the walrus one would be something that is definitely something new, but also could be something that uses these new mechanics a lot more. The walrus again could also replace a lot of the Arctic animals we have, as it's replacing some of the lesser known Arctic species. Some things I could see being cut off in favor of the walrus could potentially be the Arctic fox, the Arctic wolf, the Dall sheep, things like those that are not very crucial to the roster, especially when you have replacements for North America. You have the bighorn sheep instead of the Dall sheep, which I think we could also manage. Stuff like the Arctic fox, you have the red fox, so it's not as crucial to the roster. Things like that I think could be cut, but then you can replace those empty spaces in your Arctic sections with new ones like the walrus. Next up, I have a pelican species. Now this is a bit of a controversial one, but I do think that if birds are coming to Planet Zoo 2 as a big headliner feature, which I really think they're going to do, we also do need birds that are not only free flying in an aviary, but you also need birds that are just in general land birds or terrestrial birds. There's two ways they could go here. They could either do ducks or they could do pelicans. I personally would prefer pelicans because pelicans are just my favorite. They're amazing creatures. But ducks are also useful. I think ducks are more useful for in general ponds. I don't know honestly if this would actually replace one of the base game animals, because if birds are the key focus of Planet Zoo 2, then I feel like they would want to keep as many species as they can from the Planet Zoo 1 and then move those over to Planet Zoo 2. So I don't know if this would be one that it's less than cutting species out, but more just expanding on a group that needs more attention. Because we've seen it before, we only have about 13, 14 species of birds in the base game of Planet Zoo 1, and if the central focus of a Planet Zoo 2 is birds, then it needs a lot of work, and we need a lot more birds, we need a lot more features to do aviary building, all that good stuff. Number 5, I have the greater kudu. This is one that I think is a bit more underrated, and I think the key here is to choose species that are iconic to a degree, but are also not DLC worthy. Species that can't headline a DLC by themselves, and they can't really be that you see it and you automatically want to buy it. It can't be like that, but it also has to be one that maybe has potential to replace some of the other species we have. And I think the kudu is honestly a perfect example of this. No one sees a pack and sees a kudu and instantly has to buy it. I don't think that's really how it should work for this, but instead the kudu can replace a lot of the African ungulates we have in the base game or in the game of Planet Zoo 1, like the scimitar horned orcs, even though I love the scimitar horned orcs and I would be sad to see it go. But stuff like that, the addax, the Damagazelle, the Kirk stick tick, stuff like that, I think could potentially be cut from the roster in favor of a couple more newer ungulates, and we'll get to another one in a second. I think it's the last spot, but just adding in a few more of those, trading in a lot of the older ones we have for 2 new ones, cutting down the roster, and also just getting more of those fresher species and getting the other ones back maybe in DLCs as extra filler species could potentially work. I don't know. I really don't know what kind of model they're really going for here, and I don't know what methods they're going for. I'm starting to dislike Frontier's overall methods recently, because we've just been getting sequel after sequel of their because we have Planet Coaster, Jurassic World Evolution, and we have Planet Zoo. Those are the 3 big titles that were revolutionary, and for the past 2 years now we've just been seeing sequel after sequel after sequel. We've seen Planet Coaster 2, Jurassic World Evolution 2 and 3. Planet Zoo 2 is probably next to come, and I'm just kind of tired of it. I just want them to actually step out and do something new, but they just won't, because I feel like it's just too much of a risk, which is unfortunate. Well, that's for another video. Might make later on the line, later this year, who knows. Moving on to number 6. Alright, number 6 we have a African pygmy goat. Now this is something that is a bit strange in the list, but I do think that if we are going to get petting zoos as a locked-in mechanic in Planet Zoo 1, which I think they should do that because petting zoos were something that we really shouldn't have to wait for, and it could also be expanded a lot more in the Planet Zoo 2. But I do think that necessary to the roster, I think they are going to have to cut a few species of the petting zoo pack at least, or like petting zoo species, and maybe replace them for, again, more fresh new species, just less of them. So I could see us getting the iconic African pygmy goat, the goat you see in a bunch of petting zoos. I could see them choosing that and replacing, what was even the goat? We got the alpine goat. You could replace you could cut the American donkey, because the American donkey is very similar to the Smiley Wild we have, so there's really not too much of a difference from my opinion, or it wouldn't be a huge loss. You could cut the Tamworth pig, a bunch of species that you could probably cut from the petting zoo pack, and really nothing would too drastically change because you still have a lot of remaining petting zoo species like goats, llamas, or make the petting zoo species in a deluxe edition. That could also work to expand petting zoos and stuff. Or you can make the petting zoo pack a deluxe upgrade. Have it include like a playground pieces set, or like include like rides like the carousel, stuff like that. Maybe could potentially be something to see in the future. But yeah. Finally, I have the last spot on my list goes to the Gerenuk, and this is something that is a bit weird, a bit of an odd one, or an oddball. And this is honestly I just put it in here for coolness factor. This would be another one like the kudu. I think could replace a lot of the African ungulates we have. Of course, we would get those older ungulates back, but in the meantime, we could get a fresher, more unique species, even more unique than the kudu as it is, the Gerenuk, which is amazing. This is one of the, it would probably be a lot harder to animate and actually make because of its long neck and like the weird like kind of proportions of its body. Very complex, but I think it would be worth it because it would just bring something new to the roster and it would get people interested in it. I really hope that when they do a Planet Zoo 2, they choose a different marketing strategy similar to the Jurassic World Evolution 3. I do still really like their model of marketing. They do like the feature focuses every week, and they do species showcase, which they have like the new species and also returning species going back and forth. I think that's a really good idea, or like a really good approach to this, especially to keep people on their toes of like which species you're bringing back, as long as you're bringing back the right species. But I think this could definitely be something that would be really interesting to people. This would be something I would think is a good one to reveal right off the bat, because it just like sparks people's interest, because it's just something that people don't expect to ever like be in one of these games. Right? I mean, it's a decently popular animal, but it's just very complex model wise, and people just don't really expect it or don't really think about it. But I think it's just one that adds really good contrast to the roster. And as a bonus species to the list, as number 8, I have one that I almost forgot entirely, the shoebill. This is one that is super popular in general. Like, it was one that was very requested for the first game of Planet Zoo. I think this could honestly be a really good one to include in the starter of the sequel, because it's one that people very much look forward to, and I could honestly see it being one of the mascots for the game, because it is a new, different type of bird, but it's also very iconic. Like, the meme quality or the meme ability of this bird is amazing. It's like very iconic everywhere, just for its unique pose and its unique look, and like its like devil stare. So I think it definitely could be a very approachable and marketable animal for the sequel if you put it in the base game. And you could honestly use that, you could use the shoebill as a temporary replacement for stuff like the red-crowned crane, or like in one of the species of flamingos that we could just completely cut for now, like the American flamingo or the greater flamingo, and then bring those back later on. But the shoebill I think is a good replacement, or a good like temporary fix for that issue until we get other birds that come back later on from the first game. But honestly, I think it's just a very iconic bird, and I would love to see it in the game for Planet Zoo 2. Overall, that's going to be my list. I just wanted to put this together, just kind of like, I want to start rolling out Planet Zoo 2 stuff, Planet Zoo 2 videos, to see where it goes. We'll probably be making a few more of these as we get closer to the end of the year. I just kind of want to start building hype and stuff towards Planet Zoo 2. I am confident that it will probably happen, probably be announced June, July, around that time next year, and we'll be facing probably a November launch, because we usually face launches of like Planet Zoo 2s and Planet Zoo and Planet Coasters in November, so we will hopefully see that next year. But in the meantime, I'll be trying to spread out some of these kinds of videos, just speculative kind of fun little videos of things I would like to see. And I've also released a video in the past about 5 features that I would love to see in Planet Zoo 2, so you can go check that out if you want to. So, if you enjoyed this video, please hit the subscribe button. It means a lot to me, it means a lot to the channel. Of course, I like the work I put into these videos. But I hope you all enjoyed, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye guys, have a great rest of your day.